Welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with myself, Nadine Ness. It's Thursday today. We have a huge snowstorm outside in Saskatchewan. I have to go pick up my son later on. You're snowing too in Edmonton. I wonder how far it spans. Yeah, I have to go to Saskatoon after this. So I'm gonna try to make this episode short only because I don't want to wait for the roads to get worse. But yeah. Alvi says they're buried in snow in Yorkton. See, right now it's blowing snow, but it's not staying around where I am. I'm on the top of a hill, so everything kind of blows out of the area, but the highway, usually when it's blowing like this, the highway is really bad, poor visibility. Sasky Freedom Girl from Turtle Lake says hi. Alvi's in Yorkton and Jonathan is in Edmonton. Where else is everyone from who's watching? We have a couple on YouTube. It's funny because David, usually when I get into the studio getting everything ready, he's usually commenting the first one, but he's not there today. I wonder where he is. So I think I'm gonna stick with the 1 o'clock start time. I think it's working good. It might I don't know if I'm gonna stick to daily though. I think it's become too difficult because then I don't have time to get the other stuff like the shorter videos clipped out of the show. So I think I'm gonna move to maybe 2 to 3 episodes live per week, and then the other days I'm just gonna do small clips of the show, and that way it frees me to work on other project. I wanna do like a mini documentary of things that are happening that has the potential of waking up Canadians. So just like more edited videos where I add clips of things and stuff. So maybe like 3 to 5 minute videos. So Ed Woodland is watching from East Kootenay, south of East BC on Rumble. Ed, when you watch from Rumble, does it show other people watching too? I always assume that I didn't get many views on Rumble. I don't have a big account there. So Joan is watching from Prince Albert. Hi, Joan. Yeah, I'm just curious as to what you see on Rumble. I'm not usually on there. Like I stream my show, but I don't watch a lot of videos on Rumble. I don't know why. I just don't. So I get to reapply today for funding with YouTube. So let's see what they say if they deny my application again for monetization. So Ed says it's just one right now. Stephanie's watching from Waka. Hi, Stephanie. So from people from all over. I'm heading to Ottawa on the 9th, I think. I've been trying to book the flights. I was going to book with Air Miles yesterday and it wasn't going through. Apparently, there was a problem with MasterCard and Air Miles. It was on their end. So I didn't get to book. And then I went to book it today and the flights have gone up like insane. Just to fly to Ottawa was 750 one way. So I'm like, no way I'm spending that much. So I think what I'm going to do is book just with Air Miles a flight back, but I can fly to Toronto for $120. So I'm going to fly to Toronto, rent a car from there, and then drive to Ottawa and leave the rental in Ottawa. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But anyways, let's get on with the show. There is a lot happening, a lot that's going to have negative effects on Canada and more importantly the auto industry. So I'm going to first cover what the Trump is saying, what the Americans are saying, and then I'm going to cover the response by our politician. I'll start with Mark Carney, then Pierre, and then I'm going to talk about a few other things that are happening in Canada as well. I'm going to try to get through this fast or faster and make this episode short. Like I said, I have to go to the city to pick up my son from his dad. So because of the snowstorm, I don't want to wait too long. Okay, first things first. A video. I'll start with the video of Trump announcing the 25% tariffs on all vehicles coming into the US. Oh, I just realized I didn't do the share screen. Let's do that now. There you go. Let me know if the sound doesn't work or something.
Doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We start off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%. And basically, as you know, and as you've been seeing, not reporting as accurately as it should be reported because it's a massive story.
No sound.
Business is coming back to the United States.
You can't hear that video? Is it the same for everyone? Let me see if I... Oh, other people had sound. Let's try it again.
And we go to 20. Doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely
Okay,
no
other
tariff.
people have sound, so I'm not sure what's happening.
2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%. And basically, as you know, and as you've been seeing, not reporting as accurately as it should be reported because it's a massive story. Business is coming back to the United States, so that they're doing is a 25% tariff on.
So he announced two things. It wasn't just that. He also announced, I'm just going to see who posted this. So Tesla owner Silicon Valley is an account that posts a lot of the stuff on Tesla. I'm just going to switch to this one here so you can see better. Elon Musk commented on this. So Tesla could benefit the most on this. That's what they said. But Elon Musk commented. He said, to be clear, this will affect the price of parts in Tesla cars that come from other countries. The cost impact is not trivial. And then they asked, do you see the price increases on cars as a result? So there was no answer to that. I just wanted to point that out because and then there is a tweet by Mark Carney. I'll see if I can find it here. I was going to talk about it later on, but I'll talk about it now. Auto parts cross Canada-US border 6 times on average before final assembly. In a trade crisis, that's a vulnerability. It's time to build more cars right here at home with an all-in-Canada auto manufacturing network. So, Marty up north says, and who exactly is going to design those cars? We have had a huge brain drain in Canada for generations. So a lot of people who are highly trained, highly innovative don't stay in Canada because it's been stifled for years. So what Marty is saying is who's going to design it? Because a lot of the people who have designed vehicles have gone to the US for greater opportunity. And they've done that for decades. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to play out. Now, there was another video where Trump announced something else. I'm just going to see here. At the same time, he announced it at the same time as this during the same press conference.
We're trying to get approved, if we can. If you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct interest payments for purposes of income tax, but only if the car is made in America. So if the car is made in America, you get a loan, you can deduct the interest. That's a big saving.
So Kirk posted about this. Kirk Lubimov. I don't know if you guys follow him. He says Donald Trump admin is looking to make auto loans in America made cars tax deductible for people. We are trying to get it approved. If we can, if you borrow money to buy a car, you are allowed to deduct interest payments for purpose of income tax, but only if the car is made in America. This is huge. It's all but over for Canada's auto industry. So what is this going to do? This is going to incentivize people to buy American made cars because now they're going to be able to claim the interest payment kind of towards their income. So let's say in the year they pay $2,000 in interest, that's $2,000 less that they would be showing as income for the amount of taxes. So it doesn't mean you're going to pay $2,000 less in taxes. You're going to pay the percentage of what you would have paid on taxes in 2 grand. David, hi, where were you? David, you're always the first one that's on here and commenting. Even before I start my show, I'm like, oh, where's David today? So yeah, hopefully that kind of explains it to you guys. Now, there's another tweet that was made, not a tweet, a Truth Social post by Donald Trump. This was like late last night. If the European Union works with Canada in order to do economic harm to the USA, large-scale tariffs far larger than currently planned will be placed on them in order to protect the best friend that each of those countries has ever had. So Donald Trump tweeted that. It was like at 1:30 in the morning, I think. It doesn't show here. This was just reposted. I follow Rapid Response 47 because they post a lot of the things that's happening in the US. So I have set notifications. So, but I wish they would have posted what time that was posted. I think it was like 1:30. Brian Lilly also commented about it. So I think it was 1:30 in the morning. And then the comments are interesting too. A lot of people saying Canada and Europe have been taking advantage of America for decades. Now, what does this mean? You can look at this and think, oh, Donald Trump is evil. He's trying to destroy Canada. You can look at it from that way if you're reacting to this emotionally, I think. And if you're someone who stands to lose potentially jobs, there's going to be a lot of that. It's going to affect the Canadian auto industry massively. Yes, but if you're looking at it from the perspective of the Americans, what does this mean for the American auto industry? The American auto industry has been really negatively affected over the years by manufacturing going over to countries that are not in the US, even though Americans buy a lot of vehicles. So this is incentivizing manufacturing to occur in the US. Now, the response has been very positive from automakers in the US. There was a statement released today by the American automakers. Basically, I'll read it out for those who are just listening. American Automotive Policy Council President Matt Blunt today issued the following statement on the Trump administration announcement of automotive tariffs. U.S. automakers are committed to President Trump's vision of increasing automotive production and jobs in the U.S. and will continue to work with the administration on durable policy that help Americans. In particular, it is critical that tariffs are implemented in a way that avoids raising prices for consumer and that preserves the competitiveness of the integrated North American automotive sector that has been a key success to the president's USMCA agreement, said Governor Matt Blunt, president of AAPC. The AAPC represents American automakers Ford Motor Company, General Motors, and Stellantis. AAPC is a Washington, D.C. association representing the common public policy interests of its members company. Now, the thing that's going to make this interesting is since so much of the parts go back and forth in production between different countries, as Carney insinuated, and he's not the first one who's talked about that. Scott Moe's addressed that as well. I think Ford has also addressed that. So if that actually is happening, it's going to increase the price because there'd be tariffs constantly back and forth. So unless it's only the final product that's going to be tariffed, that'll be interesting to see how it's going to end up. Now, this is another response
is music
by Brian.
To hear an announcement like this that's going to force the auto companies to build their assembly plants in the United States instead of right across the border in Mexico is music to our ears. And we are so happy that President Trump is doing what he promised to do during his campaign, and that's to put heavy tariffs on these countries that are shipping vehicles back into the United States. To hear an announcement like this.
So this is a guy, I think they're with Auto Workers for Trump. So it's an organization. So he promised this during his electoral campaign. So it shouldn't be shocking that he's doing this. This is another post. This isn't complicated. Any car sold in America needs to be made in America. We are going to see an American auto manufacturing renaissance. I don't know how to say that word. And President Trump is leading the way. So it's going to be interesting to see if it'll be on final products only. Now, this was the response by Mark Carney.
You know, this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger. I think what's happened, and this was part of our discussion, over the course of the last several months, Canadians as a whole across this country, have gotten over the shock of the betrayal and are learning lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other. You know, this will hurt us, but through.
So that was one of the statements he did. There's another one here. I just went and looked at the post he did. I'm going to do a comment on this. I'm not going to play the audio because it's just music. There's no words, nothing, just music. He says, "We will build an all-in-Canada auto manufacturing network. It will be powered by Canadian workers using Canadian steel, aluminum, and critical minerals." The problem is okay, we can do that. But the fact is Canadians are not going to buy only Canadian-made vehicles. So, and to assume that that's going to be the case, are they going to tariff, I guess, Canadians to buy only Canadian made? Are they going to put tariffs on anything that comes outside? And do we have the marketplace to feed the auto industry in Canada? I'm curious as to how much percentage of the auto industry. Here, I'm going to ask Grok. Give me a second. I'm just going to ask how much of the auto industry stays in Canada. It's not really answering. I wonder what's going on. Did I break Grok? Can you guys see it okay? David says he is lying. He will not build gas-powered cars. Maybe Grok is down. Let me see. I'll try it again. Now it might be coming up. It's quoting a bit. Okay, in Canada, the auto industry heavily relies on export, particularly to the United States, rather than domestic sales. Based on available data, approximately 12% of vehicles manufactured in Canada are sold domestically. 12%. While around 85% are exported to the US. These figure reflects the industry's export-driven nature, with the US being the primary market for Canadian-made vehicles. The remaining small percentage is exported to other countries such as China or Mexico, but these are minor in comparison. This breakdown underscores the significant dependence of Canada's auto industry on the US market, a trend consistent over recent years. Now, we have to understand as well that the US dollar is worth a lot more than the Canadian dollar. So just by that simple fact alone, it would have incentivized US to purchase from Canada because their dollar is just buys more. It has a bigger purchasing value than the Canadian dollar. So adding that 25 and the Canadian dollar is quite a lot smaller. I think it was 67. Maybe it's gone up now to 69. Here. I'm just going to ask Grok. Oops. I misspelled it. So, yeah, 70. So 1 Canadian dollar is worth 70.7 US dollars. So 70%. So if you consider that, adding a 25% tariff would even things out. Interesting. Anyways, let's see what else we got. I just want to talk too about this post that Mark Carney did. Actually, I'm going to play the audio because I want you guys to get a glimpse. I'll tell you what it says. We build an all-in-Canada auto manufacturing network. It will be powered by Canadian workers using Canadian steel, aluminum, and critical minerals. So this is what his post says. And you know what? Canadians who aren't aware that only 12% of the autos stay within Canada, Canadians who aren't aware will think, oh, this sounds great. This sounds like a solution. But the fact is, if 88% of the vehicles get exported out, this is going to decimate our auto industry regardless, unless we start selling to other countries. But I don't know. I'm curious though. I want to go see. I'm going to ask Grok quickly here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to switch Grok up top while we watch this. I'm going to see if I can move it up top here and I can search some more. Oh, where did it go? Here. There. I'm showing you this video because I'm showing you how out of touch it is. There's no words saying how we're going to do this other than like the initial post. They could have used this as an opportunity for Mark Carney to say some words, how we're going to fix this, how we're going to kind of revive our auto industry, what that would look like. But no, all they did is show 30 seconds or was it 30 seconds or 25 seconds of him in the same auto manufacturing place with different scenes. That's it. There's no, I just find it really odd. Do you guys find it odd too? Like you think they could have, whatever he wrote in the post, he could have like narrated. But the problem is a lot of Canadians won't have a clue about the percentage. I want to ask Grok another question. I want to see what kind of vehicle. What brand of vehicles are made in Canada? Is my video freezing for you guys? I wonder if it's because of the storm. I'm not getting really good internet. Is it freezing for you? Or is it working okay? Okay, these are the ones we make in Canada. Toyota RAV4, gas and hybrid, Lexus RX, NX, Honda Civic, the sedan and coupe, and the Honda CRV. General Motors makes the Chevy Silverado heavy duty. Stellantis makes the Chrysler Pacifica, the Dodge Grand Caravan, the Dodge Charger Daytona, Dodge Challenger, Chrysler 300, and Jeep Compass production plan. Ford, the Ford Edge, Ford Super Duty. There's a few other ones, smaller, Lion Electric. They make bus. Green Power. I've never heard of these. So we don't have a lot of choices. So are they going to make it so that we in Canada can only buy these vehicles? Because even if you switch all of the people buying vehicles to Canadian bought vehicles only, if let's say you were to put tariffs on any other auto industry, what would you be able to buy? Because this is not a huge list. This is a really, really small list. I guess everyone's saying I froze there for a bit. I think it's better now. I think it was just like really poor internet for a little bit. ED Wood says it didn't freeze. Let's see if it stays. Usually Starlink is pretty good, but I don't know if it's because sorry, there's this big of a storm. So Mark Carney posted this, good paying union jobs keep Canada strong. So this is yesterday. So while the tariffs are being announced, everyone's talking about that. Mark Carney posts this. Now, David Jacob made a comment on there. I'm going to play this video. He says, here's the anti-union video Brookfield subsidiary Westinghouse produced while Carney was running the show. Enjoy. I'll play this for you.
Westinghouse encourages you to consider these reasons why you should not sign a union card. The card they want you to sign is a binding document. Once you sign it, the union can claim that it speaks for you. Don't sign away your voice. The union will say anything to get your signature. However, the law is that nothing is guaranteed in bargaining. They want to take your money. Think of all of the money they could collect without any concrete return on your investment. The union is a dated institution that's losing membership, and they will do and say anything to get you to sign. At the Columbia plant, we have done tremendous things together without the interference of a union.
Interesting, though, eh? I wonder what part he took in the decisions to do that campaign. Anyways, it was something really interesting that David brought up. Now, what was Pierre's message? We're going to play this now. It's a bit of a longer video, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. I'm going to make it go a little bit faster, though. If ever I do the faster video and you guys have a hard time keeping up, let me know.
Thank you very much. I want to start by condemning, without equivocation, the unjustified and unprovoked tariffs that President Trump has now announced against our auto sector. These tariffs will damage his workers and his economy, just as they will damage ours. We must retaliate and target goods and services that we don't need can buy elsewhere or make ourselves to maximize the impact on the Americans while minimizing the impact on ourselves. But before I go any further about these unjustified tariffs and how we're going to respond to them, let me speak to the workers in the auto sector. You're afraid right now. You're anxious. You wonder how you're going to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. You're thinking about the conversations you may need to have with your little children about whether they can register for next year's hockey or this summer's soccer. You don't know if you'll be able to stay in the same city or what's going to happen to your future. Canada will be there for you. We will be there for you. We will ensure that you have income replacement to put food on the table and money in your bank account. We'll make sure that businesses directly affected will have the liquidity they need to get through this dispute. And we will unite as Canadians to protect our affected sectors. But more than that, we need to become strong, self-reliant, sovereign, so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to the Americans. What is clear is that 10 years of economic weakness have made us more reliant than ever on the Americans. 75% of our exports go to one country. Almost all of our energy, most of our raw materials go south because we can't get them anywhere else. We need to take drastic action to build an economic fortress in Canada, able to reach other markets around the world, repealing the anti-pipeline law, rapidly building LNG liquefaction plants, mines, factories, expanding and making our ports functional so that we can move our goods to other places around the world, knocking down the barriers between our provinces so that we can trade with ourselves for a change. Passing a bring it home tax cut on work, investment, home building, and energy to make this the best place in the world to bring back the $500 billion that Liberals pushed out of the country over the last decade. Then and only then will we be able to properly stand up to the Americans and stand up for ourselves. Now is not a time for weakness. Now is not a time to continue on with the failures that got us into this place of dependency. Now is the time to take back control and relaunch our economy so that we can confront the president's unjustified threats and tariffs in a position of strength. We will do this for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change. Thank you.
David says this is kind of low energy PP. I agree. I think he was trying to sound like compassionate towards the people that are going to get infected by this while that was playing. I was looking at the the vehicle production in the US to see if the vehicles that are being produced in Canada are also produced in the US, and it looks like the Ford Edge is being produced in Tennessee, so they wouldn't be getting from us. Unless before in the past they would have, because of the Canadian dollar, right? If the Canadian dollar incentivizes them from buying from us, then a 25% tariff evens that out. And then General Motors assembled the Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra in Michigan, Indian, and Texas. What else? Cadillac Escalade, Chevrolet Bolt. And then Stellantis. I didn't even know what Stellantis was. So the Jeep Wrangler, Cherokee in Michigan, Ohio, Dodge Charger Daytona models, Chrysler Pacifica, which was another one that was made. I get, people are discussing, saying I'm Jewish. I'm not. I'm French. I'm French and Métis from New Brunswick. I can't use that term Métis, indigenous. So I have no Jewish whatsoever in me. What are the other comments? My maiden name is Cormier. Look it up. I'm from New Brunswick. Je parle complètement français. Actually, français, c'est mon langage maternel. So I don't know how I'd be Jewish if I grew up. I can date back my ancestry to 1755, even before that, because that's when the French came to New Brunswick. But if I was Jewish, are you one of those that hate Jews? If so, I'll make sure to block you. I'm a proud defender of Jewish people. Not because I am, but because I think if we don't stand up to anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, like it seems you are, then history will repeat itself. Okay, what other production are there? So Honda Accord Civic, CRV, that was another one that was being made in Canada, I think. Let's go back. Honda Civic, yeah, and CRV were made in Canada. So now they'll just get the ones out of the US, most likely. So Tesla is another one, all in the US. But like Elon Musk said earlier, they do get their parts, some of their parts from outside of the US. So I'm curious if the tariffs will be here. Give me a second. I'm trying to find it where Elon Musk had said that. Here. Elon Musk has said, to be clear, this will affect the price of parts in Tesla cars that come from other countries. The cost impact is not trivial. So even though it's made in the US, they do buy parts. There's a lot in Ontario manufacturers that do precise like parts as well. I know this because my ex-dad worked in one. They did like plane parts too. There's a whole bunch of them all over like Southern Ontario. BMW has plants in the US, Volkswagen, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, Subaru, Nissan. Again, like I think the biggest reason, even though most of these vehicles are made in the US as well, I think the biggest reason they bought from Canada, probably due to our low dollar value. So the American dollar would be worth more in Canada. So it would make it cheaper in American dollars. Interesting. I didn't know which ones we were creating here. Now we're going to switch up a little bit and stop talking about, oh, wait, there's another video. This one, a minute, 4 seconds. Let's play this one.
As for President Trump, my message to him again is knock it off. These tariffs are simply causing chaos in markets. They're dislocating workers on both sides of the border. Stop threatening Canada with tariffs. Stop talking about our sovereignty. Our two countries have been two wonderful friends over centuries. It is better to build on that Canada-US friendship as two separate and sovereign countries. And if the president does hit us with more tariffs, we will retaliate. But more than that, we have to reverse the weakness that the Liberals have caused in our economy. Through hiking taxes on work, investment, home building, and energy, and blocking our resource projects, they have driven $500 billion out of our economy, all while Mark Carney was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. After a decade, a lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime, a falling economy under America's thumb, the Liberals do not deserve a fourth term. We need a new Conservative government that will put Canada first by axing taxes, approving resource projects, bringing home our jobs, and standing up to President Trump from a position of strength.
There was another video that I want to play. I thought I had it saved earlier on, but it looks like I don't. But I'll
United States of America.
It's what's his name? Senator Kennedy's challenge to Mark Carney. Jasmine Lane shared it this morning. Here. Was it this morning? Yeah. Let's play that one. If you don't follow Jasmine already, I highly recommend you do. She does really awesome video content.
Canada and the United States of America do a lot of business with each other. In 2024, the United States sold to the people of Canada about $350 billion in goods. It's a lot of goods, $350 billion. Canada sold Canadian goods to the United States in the amount of $412 billion. So there's what we call a trade deficit of $63 billion. And then you drill a little deeper and you realize that the U.S. economy is 10 times bigger than the Canadian economy. And the population of the United States of America is 8 times bigger than the population of Canada. Canada has 41 million people. America has 340 million. So you step back for a second, you go, huh. Now, the United States is 8 times bigger, and our economy is 10 times larger than Canada's. But yet Canada is selling more of its goods into the United States than the United States is selling into Canada. Any fair-minded person would have to conclude, Mr. President, that it's because of tariffs. It's because the Canadian tariffs on American goods are higher than the American tariffs on Canadian goods. And that's what the dispute is all about. President Trump, who believes passionately in the virtue of tariffs, thinks that the tariffs ought to be equal, that there shouldn't be a trade deficit. Now, trade is very complicated, and I don't think that all trade deficits are bad. I'm also not saying that all trade deficits are good. Trade in the complex global economy today is very complex. But I see the president's point. I'm not suggesting that I agree with the president on everything about tariffs, but when you've got your neighboring country and good friend is 8 times smaller than you are, and in terms of population, it's 10 times smaller than you are, and your neighbor is selling $63 billion more in goods to you than you're selling to them, that seems kind of unfair. And the president, as we all know, has made that point very vociferously. In response, the Canadian government, the new Prime Minister Carney, he's pretty much bowed up. When President Trump said, well, the tariffs are uneven, so I'm going to raise American tariffs. President Carney has bowed up and said, well, President Trump, you don't believe in free trade. You're not a free trader. If you raise your tariffs, then I'm going to raise mine even more. And that's how you get into a trade war. And I don't want a trade war. And I don't think Prime Minister Carney wants a trade war. And I don't think President Trump wants a trade war. But I think Prime Minister Carney is wrong when he says that President Trump is not a free trader. President Trump is a free trader. But like most of us, he also believes in fair trading as well. So here's my respectful, gentle challenge to Prime Minister Carney tonight. Prime Minister Carney, you have criticized President Trump, and I see your point of view. You said because he's raising tariffs on Canada, that President Trump doesn't believe in free trade. You have said that he believes in tariffs. And you have said Mr. Carney, you're going to change your tariffs. I hope Prime Minister Carney does change his tariffs, but I hope he does so in a way that we have a race to the top and not to the bottom. Rather than the Prime Minister of Canada raising tariffs on the United States of America after the United States of America raises tariffs on Canada, which will cause us friends to have a trade war, I would respectfully suggest to the Prime Minister of Carney of Canada that he should reduce tariffs to zero. He should reduce all Canadian tariffs on United States goods to zero, and then turn to President Trump and say, I'm asking you to remove all tariffs on Canada as well. Now, if Prime Minister Carney believes in free trade, and I take him at his word that he does, and if President Trump believes in free trade, but fair trade, and I take him at his word that he does, then let's both go to zero. How much freer can trade be? How much fairer can trade be? Let's avoid a trade war. Let's let those good Canadian companies compete with good American companies in selling goods into the United States. And let's let those good American companies compete with those good Canadian companies in terms of selling goods into Canada. And may the best, cheapest product win. That's my respectful challenge to Prime Minister Carney tonight. Do you think President Trump's being unfair and is not a free trader? Then reduce your tariffs to zero and ask President Trump to reduce our tariffs to zero on Canada. And let's go back to being friends again. Canada and the
So what he's suggesting is basically remove all tariffs. Now, someone said in the comments that we have 45% tariffs. Is it on the auto? I'm curious as to which one it is. Does Canada charge tariff on auto coming? Let's see what Grok says. Okay, so there is something. Canada does not currently impose tariffs on automobiles imported from the U.S., provided they meet specific trade agreements under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement known as CUSMA in Canada. Vehicles and auto parts that qualify as originating from the U.S., Canada, or Mexico can enter Canada tariff-free. To qualify, a vehicle must have at least 75% of its content by value produced in North America, with 40 to 45% of that content made in high wage areas like US or Canada, depending on whether it's a passenger car or truck. Most US made vehicles sold in Canada, such as those from Ford, GM, or Stellantis, meet these rules and face no tariffs. However, if a vehicle or its parts don't meet USMCA original requirement, it could face Canada's most favored nation tariff rate of 6.1% for passenger vehicle. MFN. So I guess that's a term, MFN, most favored nation. Recent claim on platform like X suggests Canada imposes a 25% tariff on US cars, but this is inaccurate as a general statement. Canada did announce retaliatory tariffs in March 2025 in response to US tariffs on Canadian goods. So, unless you're thinking about something else. Yeah, and that was John Kennedy. I really like John Kennedy. He makes a lot of sense. Christine's watching from California. Wow, you're in the land the land of the lefties. Again, we're not much better here in Canada. Christine, is this your first time watching, or have you watched before? I don't remember seeing your name, but maybe you have. But yeah, Lori says when it comes to milk, eggs, cheese, and many other things in Canada, we have in some cases over 200% tariffs. Bounty Chick is watching from Bounty, Saskatchewan. Where is that? Do you guys prefer, like, when I read your comments, do you want me to put them on the screen? Like, do you prefer that? Someone said, "Oh, I need to change my name because I don't want everyone to see my name." But if it doesn't matter to you guys, I'll do that more. Okay, Bounty says it's by Outlook, Saskatchewan. Heather says free trade and 0% on both sides. We're both in North America and share same landmass. Make North America strong again. I like that. It's funny you use strong and not great. Maybe not that word. That's Carney's slogan. But yeah, make North America strong again. I could go with that. And I think I'm against tariff. I'm more of a libertarian in nature. So I think anytime government interferes, it can have like really negative effects, especially if it's planned to stay long term. But I understand why Trump is doing it, because over the years, it's decimated the auto industry in the US. And they're like, why wouldn't we do that? But if you were to open it up full on, then it just creates more competition, creates the demand for better products. So let's see what else I got here. An interesting, so this was Pierre. See if it's in French. I'll translate it for you guys after.
Canada has to learn from Quebec's determination and its courage to protect its way of life, culture, and identity. Quebecers do not tear down their statues, pull down their flags, or hide who they are. They sing their songs, tell their stories, and wave their flag.
This was in Quebec. And then in response to this, the Premier François Legault praised Pierre Poilievre for promising to give Quebec control over temporary foreign worker selection, which I want to say just a little bit. This is one thing. When I went back home to New Brunswick, even though most of my family's liberals, like left-leaning, one of the things that really weren't happy with, and New Brunswick's very similar to Quebec. There's communities in New Brunswick that are basically only French speaking, and then there's communities that are English. The province is bilingual province, so that's why there's a lot of government jobs that goes to New Brunswick, because there's a lot of people who speak both French and English. But one of the things that we noticed in when we went down, that was like across the line, they were upset by the amount of immigration that was coming into Canada, into New Brunswick, and immigration from countries that don't speak French. So we're in communities where everyone who worked at everything were able to speak French. Now you had a lot of immigrants that only spoke English. So it really affected the culture in that area. But anyways, it's interesting to see that Pierre is taking that stance and realizing, hey, it can have a really negative effect on a culture, especially when it comes to language. So Quebec would be kind of along those same lines. Let's see what François Legault had to say about it.
How confident are you that the federal leaders will actually listen to these demands? Presumably every other premier has requests like this.
Right. But first, I'm very happy about what Mr. Poilievre said last night. He said that he's ready to transfer us selection of temporary workers, the PMI program. So it's a huge gain for Quebec. I hope other leaders will do the same. Now, regarding the asylum seekers, I'm asking everybody to reduce them by 50% within the next 3 years. I hope I'll have a good answer.
So that's an interesting thing he says at the end. As for asylum seekers, he's hoping to reduce them by 50%. Does he mean the applications that are pending? Because asylum seeker come from place, they're coming to Canada to seek asylum. So I don't know how you reduce them. They already are, like, they come to the border. Are you just going to make a strong stance? We're not going to allow you in? Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying to reduce the time for application? Because right now they come here and it takes like 2 years for their application to process. And while it takes 2 years, they stay within Canada and get like funded by the government. Jackie says, I watch you regularly, but usually on replay. I live in Nova Scotia. Oh, in the Annapolis Valley by the Bay of Fundy. We, and you're a dual citizen married to a Canadian born in Alberta. Oh, cool. If you've never been to the East Coast, go to the Annapolis Valley in I don't know if you live near here, but there's a place called Grand Pré. Grand Pré. So GRAND space PRE. And there's a ton of little towns there kind of along the ocean. There's also vineyards all throughout there. Jonathan and I, not the last time we were in New Brunswick, but the time before that, when I was pregnant with James. Yeah, this was before COVID. When I was pregnant with James, we went all along there because Jonathan and I had a dream of having a vineyard, and we technically do, although we haven't been putting much effort into it. But we went to the Annapolis Valley to, oh, David, you're former military. So David says, I lived in Annapolis Valley in Greenwood, Nova Scotia. So you must be former military if you live there, because there's an army base there. We actually went to the army base. So we did all of the vineyards kind of along there, and it's gorgeous. It's some of the prettiest places I've been to in Canada. It's probably, if I was to choose the most beautiful place in Canada, I would choose that one over the mountains, over anything. It's just so beautiful. So Neil is saying that Danielle Smith's going on Ben Shapiro's podcast. I heard she did a speech yesterday. I would have played it, but it's so long. It's like 9 minutes, but she talked about how she was fighting for Alberta, and she's going to try to plead the case for Alberta and in Canada, in the US, with on as many influencers as she can to try to reverse some of these tariffs. But anyways, yeah, the Annapolis Valley is so beautiful. We stayed at a place, I think it's called Evangeline. It's in Grand Pre. It's like a little hotel, but it's a really old building. I think it's called Evangeline. What's the name of it? If you're from the East Coast and you know the Acadian culture, Evangeline is kind of like this. I don't know if she was a real person, but there's a lot of songs about her. In 1755, the French came and settled New Brunswick, and then the English came and kind of took over. And when they did, they deported, so they put on boats all the French speaking people. This happened in 1755. We're taught about this in history in school, especially French school. They focus a lot on Acadian culture and history. And Evangeline was one of the people. They separated her and her lover or husband or whatever. So it's like this love story where they were separated through the generations. So what they did is they put all of these French speaking people on boats and they sent them all over the world. Some back to France, some to Africa, some to Louisiana in the US. So all the people that they call Cajuns in Louisiana, that's actually a slang term of Acadians. So they're all Acadians. So if you look at my maiden name, Cormier, you'll find them in Louisiana. So, and people don't know, but they were also slaves in Louisiana. They called them forced labor. So there was a difference between them and the slaves. They still did all the things the same. They still lived in the same quarters. However, the Acadians had a set limit as to when their time of them being slaves was going to be done. So there was like a light at the end of the tunnel versus the people of color. The Black people didn't have a set end time. They were slaved for forever, as per like what was believed at the time. Obviously, slavery was eventually abolished, but the French people often didn't make it to their end of their work, forced labor or work time, where they would have been free because they were under the same condition. A lot of them were killed off or worked to death. So a lot of people don't know that. And yeah, so that Acadian term became Cajuns because they would kind of insult them. So if you go in Louisiana and you search Cormier, it's all people, Black people, because the French and the Black were in the same quarters, integrated together because they were both technically slaves. So it kind of all integrated. They weren't like the owners of the farms and plantation. They were workers in there, slaves in there. But a lot of people don't know that history. Jackie says, love Ben Shapiro. I shop in Kingston, Greenwood. I know the valley pretty well. So yeah, when we were there, I made a post. Like I used to do posts all the time. Before I started doing this, I had a pretty active account on Facebook, and I made a post about being there. And someone commented, "Hey, I have a friend in Greenwood that I haven't seen in forever." I said, "Do you want me to bring her something?" So she had this thing with pizza. She says, "Bring her something with pizza on it." So I can't remember if it was a keychain or something. So I went to like Dollar Store, found something with pizza on it. And then she gave me the address and I showed up. It was in Greenwood. She lived in the barracks there. And I knocked on the door. I'm like, "You don't know me, but this and this gave you this. It's told me to get you this gift." So and then I left. So it's just like a really random story. So, and I think her friend, the one, I can't remember who it was. I'm sure if I searched pizza, it would come up in the messages, but she was someone I followed or that we were friends from Saskatchewan. I just can't remember who it was. Anyways, I thought that was funny. Now, Pierre just announced TFSA top up. They're going to let you put an extra $5,000 into TFSA to save money. I don't know a lot of people who can afford that right now, but that was an announcement. There's another story that's kind of being talked about. Fourth Liberal term in power, Carney promises more chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets with his handpicked Liberal candidates, Gregor Robertson, who led the charge on drug legalization and let overdose increase by 600% in Vancouver when he was mayor. So this is a story by Vancouver Sun on March 26th. So this is an older story. BC drug criminalization and safer supply associated with more overdose, says the study. Now, there's another really sad thing that occurred in BC. This one is in Mission, BC. A 5-year-old girl was hospitalized after overdosing on fentanyl at a residence in Mission, BC. So obviously, the kid's not like doing drugs on her own. She probably came across it and was contaminated. I don't know all of the details on it. Let's see if I open it up if it says. Yeah, police said in a statement released Monday that responders here, you guys can't see it. I'll try to make it bigger. That responder were called to a residence on Notman Street in Mission around 9 p.m. on March for a 5-year-old girl who was unconscious. The 5-year-old had been having a bath when she reportedly handled a jar containing fentanyl and began exhibiting signs of distress soon afterwards. Adults in the house called emergency services after her breathing changed and she began vomiting. According to the police, the condition of the child rapidly deteriorated and she became unconscious. Responding paramedics revived the child after administering multiple doses of naloxone to counteract the effects of fentanyl. She remains in the hospital overnight and is expected to recover. In their statement, Mission RCMP reminded the public of how incredibly dangerous fentanyl can be to people of any age, but especially to children, who would likely have no idea what the substance is if they were to come in contact with it. Even more concerning, a new trend of criminal pressing fentanyl into bath accessories and candy, items children have access to, has emerged across Canada, significantly increasing the likelihood of children overdosing on the deadly drug. I didn't know that. Last month, the Winnipeg Police Service released photos of the drug pressed in prepackaged to look like cutout cookies, soap, candies, and what the police service called confections. Police announced they became aware of the new design as a result of an ongoing investigation. So fentanyl pressed into candy and bath accessories is not novel. I'm curious if they do it to hide the fentanyl while they're trafficking it, or if they're putting like lower doses of it and people are actually having like bath bombs with fentanyl in them. So fentanyl can be absorbed through the skin. So like when I was a police officer, especially when that started coming out, we had to constantly wear gloves when we were doing searches because there was the risk of even just it touching our skin causing an overdose. So now Mark Carney was at a rally and they keep saying how Mark Carney is like positive and Pierre is like attacking all the time. Anyways, this
So in 9 days,
from Mark Carney talking about Pierre. Let's see how positive he really is.
so in 9 days, 9 days between when I was sworn in and when the Governor General accepted to call the election, in those 9 days, we did more than Pierre Poilievre has imagined in all of his decades in politics. And that, in fairness, that's a low bar. Because it's not clear he has an imagination. I'm just saying, most of his lines, it's just mimicking Donald Trump. So, Mr. President. So in
Heather says, I'm just going to read some of the comment. Heather says a home daycare in U.S. were selling fentanyl and some powder was on the floor. I assume carpet. Little ones breathed it in. I believe one died. Oh my gosh. That is horrific. But speaking of daycare, I've got a few more stories before I talk about daycare. This was a tweet by Tamara. We are being ruled by people with the maturity level of temper tantrums throwing toddlers who believe these types of actions give them some sort of morally superior high ground. So it's an article. Canada has frozen all rebate payments for Tesla and banned the electrical vehicle maker from future EV rebate programs, Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland said on Tuesday. I'm wondering if they're banning the people who've already bought it when the rebate was, and if that's the case, this is disgusting because people would have made decisions to buy such vehicle because there was a rebate, because the government was incentivizing people to buy electrical vehicles, because the government was pushing them to do so. And I'm curious if they're going to ban the ones who have already bought it when at the time the rebates were eligible. I don't think they should be going back on their word at the time because people made the decisions based on the fact that there was rebates. So, and the thing is, why are they going after Tesla? Why are they going after Elon Musk? I just find this completely childish. Elon Musk, what he's doing for the US right now, he's trying to cut government spending. He's helping the US cut government spending. But it's just another example of them just targeting whoever they want, right? Because they're not conservative. Another post by Kirk Lubimov. Canada didn't gain a single net new business in 2024. In January, 2024 has led 938,470 active businesses, and it finished the year with 938,063 active business. In fact, Canada lost 407 businesses in 2024, yet we still mass immigrate people. We still mass immigrating people. We still mass immigrating people. I think I'm curious as to what the comment was, but it just shows right there. So it kept going up and down, up and down. Number of active businesses. I wonder what happened in June and August. And this was since December 2024. I wonder what the data is now. Now we're going to talk about childcare. We should support all childcare options by having more flexibility than parents can decide which childcare option they favor, Poiliev says. Flexibility and parental choice. These are the sensible principle for future childcare policy. It is the choice Canadians endorsed back in 2006 when they elected Harper Conservative and rejected the Liberal National Daycare Program. Returning to these sensible principle in 2025 would be good for parents and for the child sector too. And it was an article saying Pierre borrows from the Harper to give choice back to parents. I support this. I think what they should do is instead of funding the daycare and making it only $10, I think they should reimburse funds for daycare by parents instead, up to like a certain amount. I think that's how they should do it because then it creates more competition and better products. So now this tweet is along the same lines. We're talking about daycare, but I also think the same for school. I think money should follow the child. I think parents should be able to choose which school they send their kids to. But it was an interesting tweet. I don't know who this Jeremy guy is, but he says, I totally understand why teachers union oppose school choice. I get it. As a business owner, I too like the idea of not having to compete with anyone. But it's so true. That's one of the things that we're going to be lobbying for and pushing for in Saskatchewan is school choices, especially when when we're kind of realizing the public education system is not necessarily representing the family values across the board, why not give the opportunity for families to choose the kind of schools that align with their family and their family values? There was another tweet here, and then I'll probably end it with this. Joe Rogan posted this. It's a video. They compared if you buy the same stocks as member of Congress versus the same as S&P 500. And it shows over time how much more the stocks are worth. It depicts that people who work in government have an advantage because they know what kind of government program they're going to pass, what kind of things which direction they're going to go, and how it's going to affect the stock market. There's been talks about making it so that Congress can't choose which stock they support or don't support. I'd be curious to see if there'd be legislation passed that would make it so that any of their investment would have to be in a blind trust, or where they don't get to see, kind of similar what Carney is announcing his is in. But like Carney also knows what the investment industry is because he was part of it, as in like BlackRock and all of that. So I'm wondering if they've moved his investments out of Brookfield, out of entities like that. Now, another big story is Andrew Tate. I talked about him before in the past, and he was in the US right now saying how everything's false. He hasn't committed anything. And there was unfortunately a bunch of conservatives who not only platformed him, but didn't challenge him when they were platforming him, kind of defended him, didn't challenge him with tough questions or anything. Anyways, there's new sexual assault allegation, and I'll read out the story so you guys understand. And yes, this is from TMZ, but there's receipts in there as well. So TMZ is reporting that Tate's girlfriend, Bree Stern, claims that Andrew Tate violently strangled her during a sexual encounter on March 11 while they were in California. So this is just recently. Bree Stern told police that Tate began choking her while they were having something. I'm going to be careful because I don't want, in case there's children around, but it got too rough. And although she begged him to stop, he kept going. Bree says the more she struggled, the more violent he got. And she felt everything getting fuzzy, like she was fading into unconsciousness. She claims that the violence only stopped once Tate was done having, you know what. She went to the bathroom to document her injuries. So these are the photos. Stern went to the emergency room a couple of days later in New York City, where she had gone from work, where she was diagnosed as having post-concussive syndrome. Bree Stern only felt safe to file a police report once the Tate brothers had flown back to Romania for a court appearance. TMZ obtained screenshots of alleged text messages between Stern and Tate, where he talks about beating her, says, because I want to beat, I won't even read it. If you want to see it, just try to make it bigger. Later on, he goes on to threaten her. If you betray me, you will regret it. Bree jokes, okay, crazy. And Tate chillingly responds, no, I am serious. And it shows the text messages. Tate is facing charges. I'm keeping some words out just in case. In both Romania and the UK, with multiple victims claiming that he violently choked them during, you know what, unconscious, sometimes unconscious, and to the point that burst blood vessels in a victim's eye. Tate also faces allegations of, you know what, with a minor. Stay tuned for updates. And then there's the article there. It was posted by account DPLANET, DPlanet, Human Waste. So if you want to go read the article, it was posted by them. This is just another addition to the allegations against them. They're being investigated also in Florida. And if you're unaware of the case, there's so much information available online that shows what these have been up to. So it's just interesting while a bunch of people were defending, and I think some of them are realizing that they they went the wrong direction. But there's so many people still who are unaware of all the evidence that's out there. Even me as a former police officer who was looking at it, there's so much evidence available publicly that would be admissible in court that it would lead to a conviction. It's like 99.9%, which in court you have to only prove beyond a reasonable doubt for it to get a conviction. And there's so much evidence, not just video evidence of them committing the crime, but also evidence of them bragging about it, talking about it, trying to entice other people to commit the same crime. So anyways, I've been very, very strong vocal against the Tates and against any conservatives defending these really, really what I think are evil men. Yeah, I think that should be it. I'm going to end it here because I do have to drive to the city. I have a few more subjects, but I'll try to talk about them tomorrow. They're not any rush. Oh, are you guys having a hard time watching it? Cindy's saying, I'm having the same trouble. Lives won't play on my phone. Because Donna said, Unreal, I swear someone doesn't want me watching your lives. I have the notification bell on too. Hi, everyone. Donna's from Saskatoon. And David says, they rage against Elon instead of the waste he is exposing. Oh, interesting. Rory just finished a CPR course, and they said the number one place for a child to OD from fentanyl is at an Airbnb. That would not shock me. Oh, yes, I heard about it. David says, did you see the video at Carney's presser where a guy screamed out how many kids he abused on Epstein? Just seeing what else. I don't know if yeah, there's been a few people that have kind of said either there was no sound. There was someone on YouTube, was it a couple of days, that was having a hard time? Anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. I have to go pick up my son, and I will be back on tomorrow. Not sure what I'm going to talk about. I am working on getting more guests on. I've reached out to a whole bunch of people, but a lot of them, because it's election time, they are so busy being called on other shows and stuff. So I've kind of been told by several people, yes, but not till after April. So hopefully we'll get more, and hopefully I'll be heading to Ottawa. I'm going to try to book everything today, and hopefully I'll get some interviews while I'm there. That would be really awesome. I'm going to try to bring some of my equipment to film, but yeah, I'll be back on tomorrow, probably around 1:00. I think I like that time better than 12. And yeah, so I will see you guys. If you don't follow already, follow, subscribe, like, comment, do all of the things. And have a good evening, guys.